Have you ever wondered why our bodies seem to, well, keep a record of old injuries and illnesses, only to play them back for us decades later? It's one of the biggest puzzles of aging, and today we're going to unravel it.
It's such a familiar story, isn't it? That old knee injury you thought was totally healed suddenly becomes a chronic problem. Or an infection you had as a little kid makes this dramatic comeback. Well, it turns out this isn't just bad luck. There's a really fascinating biological reason for it. I mean, just look at this list. From viral infections like shingles to the aftermath of physical trauma that leads to osteoarthritis, the pattern is crystal clear. Problems from way back in our youth can just lie dormant for decades, only to pop back up as major diseases of aging. So how on earth does this happen? Well, to solve this very human mystery, scientists turned to a surprisingly simple organism. This tiny little worm, C. elegans. It actually goes through a similar pattern of aging. And by studying it, they've uncovered this fundamental mechanism that seems to apply to us too. Okay, let's see what they found. So here's what's going on. When it's young, the worm's powerful chewing motion actually causes these tiny injuries inside its throat, or its pharynx. You can think of this as the first domino to fall, what scientists call the initial insult. This small wound creates an opening, and bacteria get in. But the young worm's body is tough. It heals the wound pretty quickly, but, and this is the crucial part, it doesn't actually get rid of all the bacteria. Instead, it does something really clever. It just walls them off. It contains the infection. So the problem becomes latent, sort of a hidden secret, and the worm just carries on, looking perfectly healthy. And this is where the second act of the story begins. Much later in the worm's life, as its body changes with age, that clever containment strategy starts to fail. The walled-off bacteria break out, the infection spreads, and what was once a minor, hidden issue suddenly becomes a fatal disease. A problem from its youth, literally re-emerging at the end of its life. So this whole process, the early damage, the containment, and then the late-life failure, it gives us this incredibly powerful new framework. It's called the two-stage model of aging. And what it suggests is that a lot of diseases of old age aren't actually new problems at all, but just the result of old problems coming back to haunt us. The easiest way to think about it is like a garden. In stage 1, early life events, things like infections, injuries, even genetic mutations are like planting dormant seeds in our bodies. For decades, they can just lie there, totally harmless. But then comes stage 2. The aging process itself creates the perfect fertile soil, allowing these old seeds to finally germinate and grow into a full-blown disease. Okay, but that leads to a really big question, right? If our bodies are so good at containing these problems for so long, why would they later create the perfect conditions for them to come roaring back? Why does the program of aging seem to work against us? The answer, it turns out, lies in evolution. Many of the biological processes that give us a huge advantage in our youth, the things that help us grow, reproduce, and survive, well, they have a hidden downside that only shows up decades later. It is a classic evolutionary trade-off. Now, this idea has a name, and I know it sounds really complicated, but the concept is actually pretty simple. It's called antagonistic pleiotropy. Pleiotropy just means one gene has multiple effects. Antagonistic means those effects are opposing. So a gene can be fantastic for you when you're 20, but that exact same gene can contribute to disease when you're 70. This slide here really gets to the heart of the why. See, natural selection acts super strongly on us when we're young and able to have kids. So any gene that helps us survive and reproduce, that's a fitness benefit, is heavily favored. But after our reproductive years, it's like we step into what's called a selection shadow. Evolution's focus shifts, and natural selection can no longer see or weed out the negative effects, the fitness cost, that those same helpful genes might cause in old age. So just to be clear, antagonistic pleiotropy is saying that evolution actively chooses these two-faced genes because their benefit in youth is just so powerful. That's a little different from another theory, which suggests that harmful mutations are just passively ignored if they only show up late in life. Honestly, both probably play a role, but this idea of an active trade-off is absolutely central to our two-stage model. So, what does this all mean for us really? Well, this model is way more than just a fascinating theory. It completely changes how we can think about our own health and our own longevity. It gives us a new roadmap with really clear strategies for how to intervene. Look, if aging is a two-stage process, then that means we have two shots to do something about it. Strategy 1 is pretty straightforward. Just prevent the seeds from ever being planted in the first place. This is what we're already doing with vaccines, or wearing sunblock to prevent DNA mutations, or using protective gear to avoid injuries. Strategy 2. That's more about the future, developing treatments that target the germination process itself, basically changing the soil of the aging body so those seeds just can't grow. And as the researchers behind this very model point out, right now our most effective tools are all in that first category. The best anti-aging treatments we actually have are the ones that prevent those initial disruptions from happening when we're young.
Ultimately, this model just reframes our entire understanding of what aging is. It's not just a passive, random process of wear and tear. No, it's an active, predictable interaction between the ghosts of our past and the biological programs that run in our later years. Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought. What if aging isn't really about the body breaking down? What if it's about a biological program, one that was absolutely essential for our youth, simply continuing to run long past its expiration date?